American Timelines is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network. Find out more at queencitypodcastnetwork.com.
So now I'm obsessed with time. Come on, tell me about the time. Had it all in my hand tonight. Had the time of my life. When the words all come down like blues on Tuesdays come down. Throw it all away. Throw it all away.
Welcome to another episode of American Timelines. I'm Amy, and that's Joe.
Hines.
And that was
Yes.
beautiful.
I am Joe, and we apologize for taking a week off last week. Last time we
There was all this illness going on.
we put out a best of episode because I am still getting over bronchitis or the flu or something.
Yeah,
I'm coughing up a lung, y'all.
and he's spreading it all over town, so be careful. Batten down the hatches,
No,
everybody.
I'm not spreading all over.
You're
town.
spreading
I'm
all over the
staying
house,
home.
I guess I should say.
Yeah, but nobody else has got sick. I mean, you did.
I
a little
did,
bit,
a little bit.
But you probably gave it to me in the first place.
No, that's not.
Working with those children.
All right.
But also another development we have is another new Instagram follower that interacted with us. We get a lot of followers,
Yeah.
but we don't get a lot that interact with us. So thank you, Anik9903. Thank you, Nikki Warren Underwood, for interacting with us. She said, "Love the show." Poor Amy. That's how we know she really listens. I get a lot of
Yes.
emails that say, "Hey, I love the show. I listen all the time."
But
But they're just spam bots that
yeah.
can't say anything specific. But just her saying "poor Amy" means
You know.
she definitely listens.
Yes.
That's no joke. It's no lie that I put you through hell.
You do. It's
Yeah.
it's a torture. It's a nightmare.
It is a nightmare.
It's a screaming nightmare that I wake up from all the time.
Yeah. Well, you don't. That's a little far.
I guess I don't wake up from it. That's the worst part.
Wow.
It's just like a nightmare that
This
never ends.
marriage is really
Is a nightmare that never ends.
wow. It's a nightmare marriage. Well,
No,
I like
I'm
the
kidding.
marriage. No, it's okay.
I'm
I like the
kidding.
marriage,
Okay.
but to keep this marriage / podcast going,
Yes. Let's talk about
keep on going through
1950s.
1957. Let's get these 50s done
Yeah.
so we can make a new format of American Timelines where we just
Something
go to
else.
crime scenes
Yeah.
and record us getting kicked out of crime scenes.
That's right.
Maybe. Okay. But we left off in May. We started off May, but we didn't finish May.
Okay.
Okay. And Amy's got a story in June.
That's right.
So we'll jump right into May 16th of 1957 when the Yankees, some of the New York Yankees,
hmm
were involved in what they call the Copacabana incident.
Oh.
At the
All right.
Copacabana. You ever heard of the Copacabana?
Well,
It's real.
a song.
It's a real place.
Okay.
You didn't know that?
Yeah, I did.
You did? Okay. Well, according to BronxPinstripes.com, which is a whole website dedicated to the Yankees, this incident ended up leading to Billy Martin getting traded.
Oh.
It was so serious. So, a little backstory. Casey Stengel, we've talked about him before, the manager of the Yankees. You've heard me talk about him in
Maybe.
the past. We had a couple
It might have
stories.
happened.
You probably weren't listening because it's
No,
sports. But
right.
he and Billy Martin had a father-son relationship. Billy Martin was a player for the Yankees.
Mhm.
And it dated back to their days with the Oakland Oaks in the Pacific Coast League. Now, this right away sent me down a spiral on the internet. Because one thing about me that I don't know if even you know, Aim, and this could be a good Christmas idea for you.
Oh.
I am a big fan of defunct sports teams. Like,
Okay.
I want T-shirts of sports teams that don't exist anymore, but that existed at one point. So, like the Oakland Oaks, nobody like. Look, I want their shirt. There's
How do they even make shirts for those kinds
yeah,
of
you can
things?
find them threadless as everything. Billy Martin. So most people know Billy Martin if you know baseball a little bit. You just know that he was always fighting and an asshole. He was a manager later, but still an asshole.
Okay.
But he played under Stengel in the late 40s, and they developed a bond. And Stengel loved Billy's hard-nosed attitude, and Billy, who had a rough upbringing with no father figure, looked up to Casey as a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Stengel was dead set on bringing Billy to New York when he got the Yankees job, but not everybody with the Yankees was sold on Billy Martin. General manager George Weiss particularly did not like Martin's reputation of being an on-field instigator and off-field carouser. It was the 50s, keep in mind.
Yeah.
Weiss
He's
tried
probably a drunk.
to bring players to the Yankees that would represent the team well on and off the field. And the Yankees have always had this thing of clean cut, even
Yeah, but
in
like
the
Babe
current
Ruth
days.
and isn't Mickey
Well,
Mantle a
yeah, I
Yankee
guess.
too? And
Well, at this time,
drunks.
Mickey Mantle was.
God.
But they didn't want people fighting and like in trouble off the field.
Yeah.
Whatever. But anyway, but even the Yankees now, I still think, I don't think you can have a beard if you play for the Yankees. Like,
oh, really?
You have to cut your beard. You can't have long hair. Anyway, but that said, George Weiss would look past Mickey Mantle's after-hours antics because he was a Triple Crown level talent. So that's the whole thing. It's like he can look,
Yeah.
rules are different depending on how good
Right.
you are. So
Yeah.
that's why Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth, those guys. Anyway, but a 257 hitter, no way. Casey got Billy to the Bronx anyway, and by 1952, he was the starting second baseman. And then came this evening in May of 1957. It was the Rat Pack versus the Bowlers. See, Casey was a player's manager, and he turned a blind eye to the Yankees' Rat Pack, they called him, which included Billy Martin, Mickey Mantle, Yogi Berra, Whitey Ford, and Hank Bauer. As long as the team won, he didn't care what they did, really, and they won all the time. After a World Series loss in 55 and a win in 56, the Yankees got off to a slow start in 57. Weiss had been campaigning behind the scenes to trade Billy Martin, but Stengel always stood up for him. Weiss wanted Bobby Richardson and Tony Kubek to get more playing time and reportedly warned Martin, who he thought was the Rat Pack's leader, to stay out of trouble before the season started. The reality was Weiss always warned them to stay out of trouble, I guess, but they just never listened.
Okay.
The incident that spelled the end for Billy happened when the gang and their wives were out celebrating his 29th birthday right here in May 17th. After a booze-filled dinner, they went to see Sammy Davis Jr. at the Copacabana nightclub, a spot Yankees players frequented in the 50s.
Yeah.
But they encountered a bunch of bowlers who were heckling Sammy Davis, and the Yankees players were pissed. There are numerous versions of what actually happened, but here's what Andrew Rotondi pieced together. Billy told the guys to stop or they'll have to go step outside. They actually ended up, instead of stepping outside, they went downstairs where they brawled. One of the bowlers, a Bronx deli owner, ended up with a concussion and a broken jaw, and some people thought Martin punched the guy, but it was most likely, allegedly, Hank Bauer, as that's who the eventual lawsuit was brought against. Bauer denied ever punching the guy, and the Yankees players never said who actually hit him. In the Billy Martin Yankeeography, there's a story about Leonard Lyons, a New York Post entertainment columnist who wrote one of the first stories about the incident. See, Lyons was at the club, and apparently he made a deal with Yogi, and Lyons would sneak the Yankees out through a back entrance, let him get away if he could get the scoop on the story the next day. So the next day his column started, "There are now 3 great battlefields in American history, Gettysburg, Iwo Jima, and the Copacabana nightclub."
Jeez.
But the police refused to take action against Bauer, so the deli owner had Bauer taken into custody on citizen's arrest, and it all led to a trial. And the players had to testify before a grand jury. It was terrible press for the team, but this was what all Weiss needed to get rid of Martin. Some players were fined and some were benched. Whitey Ford was supposed to pitch the next day, but Stengel pulled him. And the only one he didn't punish was Mickey Mantle. And when they asked Stengel why, he said, "I'm mad at Mantle, too, for being out late, but I'm not bad enough to take a chance on losing a ball game and possibly the pennant." So, again, these coaches don't really punish people if they play good enough.
It's like the rest of the world.
The case was eventually thrown out for insufficient evidence, and Mantle, Yogi, and others laugh about it today. And it eventually led to Billy Martin's trade later on in the month, and I'll get to that, or next month. And that same day on May 17th was the prayer pilgrimage, the biggest civil rights demonstration to date. According to the King Institute, Stanford University, nearly 25,000 demonstrators gathered at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. for a prayer pilgrimage for freedom, featuring 3 hours of spiritual songs and speeches that urged the federal government to fulfill the 3-year-old Brown v. Board of Education decision. The last speech of the day was reserved for Martin Luther King's "Give Us the Ballot" oration, which captured public attention and placed him in the national spotlight as a major leader of the civil rights movement. I'll play a little bit of it.
Okay.
3 years ago, the Supreme Court of this nation rendered in simple, eloquent, and unequivocal language a decision which will long be stenciled on the mental sheets of succeeding generations. And for all men of goodwill, this May 17th decision came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of human captivity. It came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of disinherited people throughout the world who had dared only to dream of freedom.
And so really what they had already ruled on Brown v. It's been 3 years since 1954's Brown v. Board, but
but nobody was
didn't
following
do
it.
anything. They just so
Yeah,
they did this, and it really kind of got things moving a little bit.
good.
And I found out as I read more into this, I love finding when I find there's all these civil rights leaders nobody's ever heard of. We only hear Martin Luther King, and Bayard Rustin was instrumental in this prayer march. And I never heard of Bayard Rustin. Have you?
No.
Bayard Rustin, Bayard Rustin. He died in 1987, but he was an African-American leader in social movements for civil rights, socialism, nonviolence, and gay rights.
Wow.
He was a gay black man in the 50s.
Wow.
And so
brave
him up.
person.
Yeah. So he did all kinds of things. He worked on the March on Washington movement, organized freedom rides, helped to organize the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, later served as an organizer for the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. He worked alongside Ella Baker, co-director of the Crusade for Citizenship in 1954. And before the Montgomery bus boycott, he helped organize a group called In Friendship, which provided material and legal assistance to those being evicted from their tenant farms and households in Clarendon County and other places. So he did lots and lots of stuff. And so he's somebody, nobody ever
want to know.
Yeah.
What's his name again?
Bayard Rustin.
Bayard Rustin.
Yeah. So that's another civil rights leader nobody's heard of, and brought to you for the first time on American Timelines by History for Jerks. Not obviously, we're not the only people that have ever mentioned him, but I bet a lot of our listeners have never heard of him. So there you go.
Ta-da.
Getting the info out there. We're talking about it, y'all. On May 28th, 1957, the National League approved baseball's Brooklyn Dodgers and New York Giants move to the U.S. West Coast. This is a big thing, and I've always wondered when the Dodgers and Giants, there was the Brooklyn Dodgers and New York Giants, when they moved and why. So this is when it happened. On May 28th, they voted to approve it, but there were some conditions. This was at the midseason owners meeting in Chicago. The conditions were that first, either both teams had to move or neither could, which meant that if one team reconsidered, the other would have to change their plans as well. Second, both teams had to announce their plans before October 1st, 1957. In the end, both teams did move. The Giants hosted a farewell party at a game on September 29th, and the Dodgers formally announced their move on October 8th. West Coast baseball fans were overjoyed, and the people of New York were heartbroken. And then later on, New York got the Mets, and so then they had the Mets and the Yankees again.
All right.
So there you go. And I know that you were barely tolerating that, but I got that from History.com from an article called "Baseball Owners Allow Dodgers and Giants to Move." There you go. And then we're in June of 1957 now.
Yes.
And did you know that the film The Fly?
Yeah. I love that. The original
You
one?
love that movie? I started watching it again because I forgot about it.
Did you watch the original one?
I'm watching it right now.
The black and white one? Yeah.
Is there another one? Wait.
Yeah. The black and white one is the 50s one. The Jeff Goldblum one
Oh,
is not
Jeff
from
Goldblum.
the 1950s.
Oh,
Honey.
there was a 50s movie of it?
Yes.
Oh, I thought
It was a
just...
remake. Jeff Goldblum's was a remake.
I did not know that.
Well, Jeff Goldblum's wasn't from the 50s.
No, I didn't know it was from the 50s. What I was about to tell you is
Oh.
the film The Fly, which I thought was the Jeff Goldblum one, originated from a short story from the 50s. I don't know if the original one was from the 50s.
Yes, it
either.
was.
It was?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was originally in 1957.
Maybe 60s. Maybe it was a 60s movie.
Oh, now
But it was back then. It was black and white.
Changing. The film The Fly originated from a short story that was published in a 1957 issue of Playboy magazine.
Say.
Did you know
I read
that?
it for the articles.
1958 film.
That's it. See?
Starring who?
Oh, I can't remember. I don't think it was anyone real famous. Who was it?
I don't know.
Oh, thought you had
I
it
was
in front of
asking
you.
you.
Thought you had it in front of you.
Al Hedison, Patricia Owens.
Yeah, see.
Oh, Vincent Price is in it, of course.
Oh, that's right.
Anyway, so now I got to watch the original one.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I do think, now that I think about it. Nah, never mind. I don't know if I saw it.
Help me.
I
Help me.
Yeah, I didn't know it was from Playboy magazine, though. Did you?
No,
You
I
like-
did not.
Do you like Playboy magazine?
Not really.
Not a big fan. Naked ladies. And then I understand you have something
Yes, in June.
for June of 1957.
So I'm going to talk about the Merry Widow of Windy Nook. And this is an English story again. Sorry, folks. It's not American.
The Merry Widow of Windy Nook.
Yes.
Okay.
And Mary Wilson was her name. And I'm going to start with a quote from... dogs.
Our dogs are wrestling.
No wrestling right now. No wrestling right
Sarah, say it one more time. Merry Widow of...
Mary, like Merry.
Yeah.
Widow of Windy Nook.
Of Windy Nook. Okay, I just have to write it down for when I do the notes.
I'm going to start with a quote from an article from the Mirror.uk by Rachel Bletchley.
Okay.
Shh, dogs. In her best coat and hat, gray curls neatly set, newlywed Mary Wilson was flushed with excitement as she handed round the nibbles at her wedding reception.
But she handed round the nibbles?
Yes, that's what it says. Third hubby, Oliver Leonard, 76, a retired real estate agent, looked on proudly as twice widowed Mary, 68, celebrated their union. He even laughed indulgently when she shocked guests with two of her naughty jokes. A friend asked the bride what she would do with all the spare sandwiches, and Mary quipped, "Keep them for the funeral."
Because they're old people getting married here.
Then she trotted off to chat to the undertaker who had organized her previous partner's burials, laughing, "I should get a discount for the business I put your way." So, hours later, Mary and Oliver headed back to their home in Windy Nook, County Durham. And 2 weeks after that, the undertaker was there too for Oliver's corpse.
2 weeks later?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
He had
A
become the
wedding and a
fourth
funeral.
victim of his serial killer bride in 26 months.
A female serial killer?
Yeah.
An older
So
gal?
this was about
British?
Yeah. So
British?
she was Mary Wilson, Mary Elizabeth Wilson. She was the last woman in Britain to be sentenced to death.
Oh, really? And she is who the band Wilson Phillips named their band after her.
And
Just kidding.
so she was born Mary Elizabeth Cassidy
Okay.
in Catchgate County, Durham, on June 11th, 1889.
And if you're familiar with this area, please tweet us at History for Jerks or send us a message on Instagram and tell us, what's this area like?
When she's a young lady, she becomes works in service for a family called the Knowles.
Okay.
And while she's working there, she gets the hots for the son.
You say Knoll like N-O-L-L?
Knowles.
K-N-O-W-L-E-S. The Knowles.
So she
Like
gets the
Beyonce.
hots for the son of this family
Okay.
that she's working for. And he's a chimney sweep. His name's John.
She gets the screaming thigh sweats is what they call it.
And so they get married about 1914. And they settle in Windy Nook.
All right.
They had 3 sons and 3 daughters.
Wow.
2 of the girls died when they were babies.
Shoosh.
But that wasn't
happened a lot.
unusual.
That
That
happened
sure
a
did.
lot.
So
Cholera.
fast forward to when John is 76. After
the
41
husband.
years of marriage,
The
yes.
husband, yeah, the
He
guy.
dies
Yeah.
in September of 1955, and it was like tuberculosis or something,
Okay.
supposedly.
Supposedly.
But they had been married for
Allegedly.
41 years, so,
Well,
you know.
but now that you've been married to me for
But-
20 years, can't you see like the longer?
But before he died, they had taken in a lodger named John Russell.
They had taken in a lodger. I was thinking we should take in a lodger. That's the next step
Listen.
of our marriage.
No.
No?
They had taken in a lodger, and he was he was still an old guy.
lodger?
He was an old guy, but he was younger. He was 65, so he was like 10 years younger.
Wait. What's a lodger?
Like somebody who rents a room out of your house.
A lodger is what you call it?
Yes.
Somebody who's lodging.
Yeah. All right. Can we move on, please?
It just sounds weird.
All right. So she starts having an affair with John Russell, the lodger,
Oh boy.
before what's his name died, even. And then he dies, and then she gets she gets together with him, and then he dies from natural causes at 65.
And now she's becoming a black widow.
So from the two Johns, she had inherited about $52, 42 pounds.
That total? That's it?
Yeah.
Oh.
And
I thought you were going to say a windfall, so then
I
she
know.
started making it a pattern.
I know,
But-
but it's usually what happens.
Jeez.
So in
don't take in a
June-
lodger, fellas.
So
Your
in
wife
June of
will-
1957, she married retired real estate agent Oliver. Wait a minute, Oliver Leonard. Yeah. So we're going back. We had gone back. Now then she marries him.
Now we're back to the present.
We're
day
back to the
after all
present.
that. So now she's
That's
getting
right.
married to this old man in 1957, and they're making all these jokes about they're going to die.
Right. She's making the jokes.
Yeah.
And so then within 12 days, he dies of heart failure and pneumonia, supposedly. That's what it had said on his death certificate.
Yeah.
She inherited another 50 pounds. So then
50 pounds is
it's like-
all?
yeah. Yeah.
Now, I guess then that's a little
Still,
bit, but it's not much.
Not much. So then about 4 months after that, she marries a retired engineer. And they had been, then they stay married for about 14 days.
Oh, a little bit
Then
longer,
she
probably.
calls the doctor and says that he had taken badly. And then when the doctor got there, he was already cold.
Oh, my gosh.
And the doctor said it was heart failure.
yeah,
so-
now there's a pattern.
So now, this time, she had gotten 100 pounds from a co-op account, as well as Ernest's bungalow and life insurance. This time, she didn't even
Now
go to the
she's got
funeral.
stuff. She's getting stuff now, though, at least.
Did you
She
hear
didn't
what I
go to
said?
the funeral?
Yeah, she didn't even go to the funeral.
Sorry, I'm trying to keep these dogs.
I know.
from-
The files,
Wrestling.
but they started this gossip around the town because of all these little remarks she was saying, like at the wedding when she's talking about.
Do you think her thought is, the more I mention this stuff and these jokes, nobody's going to suspect anything? Because why would I say anything?
Yeah, probably because she's an old lady and she's an old white woman. She'd get away with anything.
That's true.
So then, like this, there was an awful lot of talk in the town. The gaps between the weddings were short and the marriages themselves were so short. Stop it. Stop crawling.
It's amazing. It's almost amazing she can convince. Hey, it's almost amazing she can convince someone to marry her that fast.
So the police get wind of this and they decide we better exhume these bodies and check.
yeah.
And so they do. And sure enough, beetle poison.
Say it again.
Beetle poison.
Beetle
Yeah.
poison?
Or rat poison. It could be rat poison. but
Oh, beetle poison for beetles.
beetles, yeah.
I thought you were like beetle poison. She was feeding them beetles.
No,
Dung
that
beetles.
doesn't even
I
make
knew-
sense.
I know. That's why I was confused.
All right.
I'm
so
not very smart.
a pathologist found high levels of phosphorus in the bodies, along with wheat grain, which were both ingredients in beetle and rat poison.
Oh,
So
she's
they
putting it
questioned her
in
for 6 hours.
Oh my gosh.
She comes home. There's reporters everywhere. She says, "I've nothing to hide." She says, "I've prayed my good name be restored, and I'm confident my prayers will be answered. I ask for no sympathy and will not give in to self-pity. All I want is for my name to be cleared and then to live out my life in peace."
I would rather that be more of a cockney. A cockney.
When Wilson stood trial in March 1958, her defense suggested the poisonings may have been caused by her husband taking sexual stimulation pills.
Maybe all of them were taking them.
But that didn't, nobody believed that. So after a 6-day trial, the jury took only 90 minutes to find her guilty of both murders.
Yep.
She was sentenced to death, the last woman in Britain to be condemned. She showed no reaction as she stood on the dock.
Well, you said both, but they didn't exhume the
They didn't
bodies
get
of
to the.
the
Well, I'm
ones
getting there.
before. Oh, okay.
We'll get to it. Although reports did comment on her flushed cheeks. The bodies of her first husband, John Knowles, and lover, John Russell, were exhumed later
Lover.
and also found to be contain phosphorus poison.
So what I can't figure out is why she killed the first ones.
Well,
She's
I don't
just
know.
tired of them.
Yeah.
The first one, she was just tired. I mean,
But she didn't hang.
For
Because of her
$50.
age, Home Secretary Rab Butler later commuted the sentence to life imprisonment. She died 5 years later in Holloway Prison, age 74. Family members who visited her there said she remained her old self, laughing and joking as if she had no troubles.
I guess jail's probably not as bad if you're an old person.
But
You
the
know,
Mary,
Unless
but
you're
then at the end
attractive.
of this article, it would say the merry widow of Windy Nook always rued the day that her tongue ran away with her as she played the happy hostess. She told her relative plaintively, "I may have said at the wedding reception that there were plenty of cakes and sandwiches that might come in useful for the funeral, but in no way was it intended to be taken seriously."
Wow. A female, older lady serial killer from jolly old England.
Yep.
That's a fun story. I'm glad I know about that one.
Oh, good. Well, there
I
you
wish
go.
I would have met that lady.
Can we take a little break?
Yeah, we can take a little break.
I got to turn on
and
the
then we'll
oven.
jump back in. That'll give me a chance to talk to our listeners about Magic Mind. You see, I have trouble focusing, as you can tell if you listen to the podcast. And I don't like medicine. I don't like taking medicine that gets me all feeling like I'm hopped up on goofballs. So I look for natural remedies. And in this one little tiny delicious shot called Magic Mind entered the picture. And I enjoy it. And it helps me cut down on caffeine. And it helps me feel like I'm focusing a little bit better. And it's all natural. It's got mushrooms, matcha, lots of other cool things. Check it out at www.magicmind.co and use American Timeline's code ATL. Yeah, I was just reading this article. I don't know if you follow the Waxhaw History
No,
Facebook page,
I do not.
but it was talking about the widow of Henry Plyler.
Oh.
You know all the roads named Plyler
Yeah.
Mill and Plyler,
Yeah.
everything. He had to fight in the Civil War. Oh shit, it was the Revolutionary War.
Probably the Civil War.
I think it was the Civil War. And they had a farm. They owned a big farm in Waxhaw. They had a bunch of land. And they had just had a baby. And then he had to go fight in the Civil War. And he had to go north. And at some point he wrote home knowing he got wounded, he was going to die. He didn't have much time left. And he said his dying wish was for her to come get his body and bring it to Waxhaw because he wanted to be buried in Waxhaw. So traveling then was very...
With a corpse?
Yeah, with a corpse. It wasn't easy. It wasn't cheap. So she had just her and a baby, and she had to do all this farm work herself. So she sold the farm, sold everything she had just to be able to go get his body. Like all the money and assets she had in her life
Oh my God.
was to go get his body and bring it back. So she lost everything.
Jeez.
Gets there to the north to get
I'd say, sorry, Charlie.
He gets there to get his body, and it was too late. It had already been buried with a whole bunch of other bodies.
Oh my God.
And so she came back empty-handed and had nothing left because it was just a baby.
Uplifting story.
And then was broke forever. So
Okay.
how about that?
That's a Hallmark movie.
That's what you
waiting
get
to
for
happen.
fighting for the South, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, all that just to keep slavery going.
Right.
You know, just to keep being racist.
Yeah.
Throw it all away. Anyway, that was just odd. Anyway, so let's jump back in and finish up June. And if it's quick, maybe we'll do July too. I don't know how much in July, but June 11th of 1957, 12 people died in a train crash in Vroman, Colorado.
Oh.
12 migrant farm workers were
Aw.
killed in a train truck crash. Bodies were found scattered over 400 feet.
Wow.
5 survivors were found, and the train crew was uninjured. And this was an article in the Desert Sun. Apparently, the pickup truck taking them to southeastern Colorado sugar beet fields was struck by a Santa Fe Railroad freight train on a crossing. The dead were all from Rocky Cord, Colorado, included men, women, and children. Authorities said it would be some time before they were identified. Bodies were scattered at least 400 feet, as I said. The truck was reported turning off 11 South Highway 50 to go to a farm when it was hit by the tram. Sylvester Elcano of Rocky Ford was driving the truck, and he was killed. The Colorado State Patrol said Elcano apparently was blinded by the sun and failed to see the approaching train. None of the train crew was injured.
There's probably no things that come down
or anything. Yeah. Engineer W.S. Inskeep was too upset to talk. Authorities said the State Patrol said the truck was a mass of twisted steel, and most of the victims were thrown clear by the impact. Yep. So that's sad.
Mm-hmm.
And then come June 15th, 1957, the Yankees traded Billy Martin and Ralph Terry for Ryan Duran. That was the fallout from the Copacabana incident.
Mm-hmm.
And the trade worked out well for the Yankees because the minor league players they traded didn't amount to anything, and Duran was a great relief pitcher for him. So there you go.
Okay.
And Martin was devastated. Billy Martin was very upset. He didn't have the passion for putting on any other uniforms. But his first game with the A's was actually against the Yankees.
Oh, man.
And he played well in that game, but didn't do much after that. And by 1960, he was with Cincinnati, and he was sued for punching a Cubs pitcher, Jim Brewer, during a benches clearing brawl.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And then on June 17th, 1957, that began the Tuskegee boycott, where black people boycotted city stores. Residents of Macon County joined a selective buying campaign known as the Tuskegee Boycott to protest Local Act 140, state legislation that redrew Tuskegee boundaries to deprive the city's eligible black people of their right to vote in city elections.
Yeah, that's happening all the time now.
For more than 3.5 years, black protesters led by the Tuskegee Civil Association, TCA, refused to shop at white-operated Tuskegee businesses, forcing bankruptcies and closures and focusing national attention on Alabama's denial of black voting rights.
Good.
And so it actually worked.
Good.
It took a little while, but it worked because that's the thing. These big majority black areas,
need the money.
Disenfranchise them, but somebody's running those businesses, and so they'll just shop at black businesses. So fuck you, man. So there you go.
Sorry, I got the hiccups.
That was according to the Encyclopedia of Alabama.org. And then on June 27, 1957, was Hurricane Audrey, which killed 526 people in Louisiana and Texas. In the era before there were weather satellites, it was harder to predict when a hurricane would strike and the timing of a storm's arrival. Back then, only ground-based radar near the shore could capture the crude outline of a hurricane as it drew near the coastline. For the people of Cameron, Louisiana, the warnings came too late to get to safety.
Aww.
A high death toll was blamed on the incompleteness of evacuations when the storm suddenly increased its forward motion. And I actually looked up, there was a lawsuit from this, Barty v. United States, in 1963. Whitney Barty, along with hundreds of others, sued the U.S. federal government, asserting that the U.S. Weather Bureau had failed to give proper and accurate warnings on Hurricane Audrey and its effects. Barty and his family had concluded that there was no need to evacuate following a 10 p.m. Central News broadcast on June 26th, the night before Audrey made landfall. The family was awoken the following morning by water flooding their house, forcing them to climb onto their roof.
Oh,
the winds
imagine?
And rising water killed all in Barty's family except Whitney. Whitney's claim was two-pronged. with the first point alleging that the Weather Bureau was negligent in their warnings, and the second alleging that despite experiencing the full brunt of the storm, Weather Bureau advisories advising the evacuation of those at lower elevations did not implicate him. Whitney sought $360,000 in damages from the federal government. A hurricane expert testifying for the Weather Bureau suggested that Audrey's deviation from the forecast path were as accurate as could be expected at the time. The track error on a 24-hour hurricane forecast averaged 100 to 125 miles. It ended up getting dismissed because they felt like Whitney had failed to establish negligence on the part of the Weather Bureau.
Okay.
And then June 27th, that same day, the British Medical Research Council publishes a report suggesting a direct link between smoking and lung cancer.
Oh, because everybody smoked back then.
Because everybody smoked. So do we want to just end it, even though
because
it's May
otherwise it'll
and
goof
June,
me up.
And now we'll have to do July, August?
No, let's do let's end it now and do July, August.
Okay. We'll do July, August. Next time, thank you for listening.
Thank
jerks.
you, everybody.
Yeah, we like that you listen, and we like that you rate, review, and subscribe. And shout out to our new Instagram person who said, poor Amy.
Yes, shout out, sister.
Yeah. Amy
Feel my pain.
Amy appreciates your sympathy.
Yes.
And, that was Anik. Oh, I lost it. Anik999 something. Anyway, shout out to you on Instagram. Interact with us. We'll shout you out.
That's
We're
right.
not afraid to shout you out.
We're not afraid.
Say something to us. Say hey. Say hello.
How's it hanging?
We also today got a new Facebook follower and who worked for Walmart directly for Sam Walton, and they were responding to us talking about Sam Walton, the original Walmart, and saying, "Oh, he was a great guy to be rolling over, and it's great if he knew how Walmarts were today."
Oh gosh,
people.
Yeah.
She said he treated people great. I can't remember who that is. More details on that later.
Okay.
But thanks for listening,
It's
everybody.
time to get out of here, Chuck
Sorry
Berry.
about my voice.
Sorry, he sounds like
it's going around, man. It's going around. Stay
be careful.
healthy,
Be
everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, stay healthy.
Watch your hands.
Yeah, wash your hands a lot. Drink orange juice. I've just now started washing my hands.
Yep, because he never did before.
Never did before, so now I'm going to.
And bathing.
And I'm going to start. I'm going to stop using my bare hands to wipe.
Yeah, please.
And I will wash my balls.
Okay.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Time to get out of here. Chuck Berry.
Chuck Berry.
Say that already?
I did already. Okay.
Hey, thanks for the challenge, baby. I'll blow it. I can sing you a song, but you already know it. And you know it's okay if you think it's a shame, because a record company buys my cocaine. The ladies of the 80s, they've been treating me fine, and so I don't really care if I'm a few years behind. I stood in the studio without an idea. I'm living on royalty checks from Korea, and the record company buys my cocaine. 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 Down. It's not that it's shoot it, it's smoke it, and lick it, a blow job backstage, babe, I'll buy you a ticket. You can rock it and roll and a twist and shout. When I just hope to make $1 million for my teeth fall out, yeah. The record company buys my cocaine. The record company buys my cocaine. The record company buys my cocaine. The record company buys my
Matt Truman Ego Trip is the greatest band of all time. Buy their music.